Folks, I'm sure y'all have noticed that I've not even done a Forza Motorsport review in the over a month the game has been out, despite having over 100 hours playing it. Well, that's because the game is still incomplete and will forever be incomplete. Everyone's figured out now since the update 2.0 that Forza Motorsport is having FOMO, fear of missing out, as one of the core game mechanics, and I'm just not having that. After Gran Turismo 7 being built around what used to be micro and is now macro transactions, having its competitor have fear of missing out being a main point of the game, I'm tired of it. I mean, it seems like it's kind of been the trend lately as people are actually tired of people being tired. Like the whole trend of saying that gaming is boring or isn't as good as it used to or whatever, even that trend in and of itself is tiring recently, but I mean, it's true. I know it's a controversial take, but I mean, frankly, I think that gaming needs another 1983. It kind of needs to it never really died out, but whatever you want to call what happened after like E.T. came out and stuff like that, hiatus, downturn, whatever, it kind of needs that again, but that's for a different video. Right now, I mean, the two games that I'm planning to play most are still both bad. As I said before, GT7, when it came out, it was more trying to be like NBA 2K, just nickel and diming everyone and making it obvious. Now it's still like that in a way, but it's leaning more towards fake wrestling where, yeah, it's still meant to make a lot of money. A lot of money. And it's not even meant to be realistic in the slightest. It's more of a parody. But at least I can see where people are having fun with it nowadays. GT7's better than it used to be, but it's still terrible. For Forza, well, it used to be. I can't really finish that sentence. The only game that I was able to play was Motorsport 7, but from as far as I know, it was one of the most respected game franchises in all of gaming back in the day, meaning Motorsport. Horizon was too, but this is more about Motorsport. 7, the only one that I played, I reviewed it, kind of had the general consensus of everyone, it was pretty good. Gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Nothing really all that bad, nothing really all that standing out either, showing its age a bit. But, I mean, I've said it before too. I think what really happened with 8, because really it is 8, it's definitely not built from the ground up, is 6 years wasn't to improve the game, it was because it had a lot of development hell. It's never going to be fully admitted, I'm sorry, but to me it seems extremely obvious. Just because the game took a long time to make doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be any better than if it came out 2 or so years after, like was the original way of doing Motorsport, is 1 year is Horizon, the next is Motorsport, and then on with that loop, so each game took 2 years to develop. Now, we're never going to know for sure if it's development hell, but that's my guess. So instead of being honest and maybe not even downright saying development hell, but saying that it's an add-on to the previous game instead of built from the ground up. It's obviously not built from the ground up. They lied. They said built from the ground up. They said that this was a reboot of the whole series to make it better than it ever was and blah blah blah. But no, they're desperate. They are desperate and the game is barely even been out. Gran Turismo 7 is obvious macrotransactions and it's in your face, and like I said, it's a parody of a racing game nowadays. It's extremely obvious. It's not meant to be realistic anymore. It's no longer the real driving simulator. It's better than it was when it launched, but GT7's not realistic. With Forza, it's it's still lying. It's still in the phase. It doesn't really know what it is. If anything, it's just desperate. Forza Motorsport is doing fear of missing out with having cars locked to events that end fairly quickly. And this update was purposely made a little bit after 1 month after the game came out. These people have month by month Game Pass would have to get to next month in order to play the update in which made it obvious that fear of missing out is the main and core game mechanic, aka, I'm sure y'all can get where I'm going with this. Yeah, I didn't get the Game Pass renewal. I have the points to where I can get it whenever I want, but as of now, I don't want to. If it ends up in a few months to where we know for 100% fact that all of the cars that were initially in the events that have to be completed in a certain time end up in the car dealerships where you can just buy them with the in-game currency, then whatever, it's still annoying, but it's not game-breaking. But as of now, when there's no confirmation of that, I'm just not in it. Between the lying when the game came out about it being built from the ground up and blah blah blah, it's a complete and utter lie. And then now with the fear of missing out becoming core game mechanic, not doing it. The main reason they're doing fear of missing out isn't to make it special of unlocking those cars. It's because it might even be the majority of players nowadays, especially because Forza Motorsport's having a lot lower numbers than Horizon 5 in terms of overall players. The majority of the players are from Game Pass, which is month by month thing, and therefore having fear of missing out, so people have to go in every month to get the stuff, makes it to where that's where the money's coming from. It's not direct money like what's going on with GT7. It's not in your face, but it's indirectly getting money from Game Pass because people buy the Game Pass, and then some of that goes back in to Forza, and a lot of it goes back in to Xbox, which Xbox Studios is who owns Forza, so it's still indirectly making the franchise, and definitely the parent overall company being Xbox a whole heck of a heap of money, to say the least. I mean, there's an argument that could be made is this way of doing it is even worse than what GT7 is, because GT7, it's in your face, it's obvious, it's the most grindy Gran Turismo ever, so then you buy credits in which can be used to get the cars that you want. That's extremely straightforward. With Forza, there's like multiple steps to it. There's various events that have various different cars that end at various different times, and it's made into where it lasts just over a month, to where you have to get the Game Pass twice, or you just have to grind tons and tons in a month you have, and hope you can finish it in time, which honestly takes a lot of gameplay. It's doable, but it's a lot of gameplay. And actually, I haven't done it yet because I didn't realize that it was going to be fear of missing out. I knew the events ended when they say they ended, but I didn't really think that meant anything more than just that's when the next events start. I didn't realize these ended completely, as in never available again. I didn't realize they were going that route. But, I mean, it all makes sense after I thought about it for a bit, is that, no, it's not direct in-game currency like Gran Turismo, rubbing it in their faces. It's indirectly, so Game Pass, people will have to get it again. I'm not doing that. If there wasn't the fear of missing out, I'd still be leery of it if I want to get another month of it. I have it through the points. I've never paid for Game Pass. I've done the various things to earn points, and I don't really have the money to pay for it, so. And it's just in morals, too. It's not, I don't agree with paying for online. There's one thing, I mean, the Game Pass has some value in terms of the games available with it, sure. But one of the main points of Game Pass being the pay for online thing, I don't agree with that in the slightest. You shouldn't have to pay to play online. You already pay for internet in the first place, and you've already paid for games that have online anyway. So you shouldn't have to pay to play online. I've said that for years and years and years. And it's not even one of those arguments to where it could be like a safety thing or a monitoring thing to make sure that no one's hacking or whatever it may be. They're still hacking. There's still exploits. There's still just as many, if not even more, glitches and shadiness and all that than there was before you had to pay for playing online. It's like with Exeter. Paying to use Twitter isn't going to do anything about the bots. If anything, it's going to make the bots that are there even more aggressive. It's just like what's going on with paying for online. It isn't going to deter the bot accounts or the fake accounts or hackers or whatever it may be. It's just going to make the ones that are there more aggressive. Making it to where people have to pay more money is not an immediate solution. Gran Turismo, take notes. Forza, take notes. Elon Musk, take notes. A lot of people take notes on that. It should be obvious, but it seems like some of the most powerful companies out there don't seem to realize this, and I don't really know why. I mean, I've said it before, I guarantee Gran Turismo will make more money if their microtransactions were around about the same price as they were in GT6. Because more people could afford them and more people would buy them. If the microtransactions were actually microtransactions and not macrotransactions, aka maybe 20 times less the price than they are now, you'd probably get around 30 times the amount of people buying them. It would have to be at least that cheap for me to even consider it. But the way that Forza's doing it is with a fairly fixed price thing. At least with Gran Turismo, they could theoretically, at this point I really don't think they're going to do it, but they could theoretically lower the price for the individual game. With Forza, with it being Game Pass, that's a set price that affects all of the games that Game Pass has. The Game Pass price at this point is only going to go up and up and up. There's no lowering the price of Game Pass as a whole. That's just not realistically going to happen because Forza doesn't have a direct effect on it. They're just milking off the system that's there, and I'm not for that in the slightest. Now, granted, overall, Gran Turismo is still the worst system. Gran Turismo is still the worst game, but both are extremely underwhelming. A lot more lying than should ever be acceptable by anyone, no matter how good the game ends up being. Lying at the beginning should be downright unacceptable to the point of no one should ever have a net positive. I'll put it like that. It's one thing if an individual likes the game, but everyone needs to realize that we cannot accept this level of lying. PD lied tons. Turn 10 lied tons. It's one thing if an individual likes the game, but everyone needs to realize the amount of lying that is going on should not be acceptable. We should never give a positive review to when there's this much lying. Individual aspects of the game, sir. I praised GT7 graphics from the very beginning and still do. But overall, too much lying to morally be acceptable. Period. It seems extremely straightforward. And then off this video too, something straightforward is that if it's proven that you can just get the cars later in the summer, I'll probably get Game Pass again and up the points for it. If it's proven that they screwed up and they do something for retribution, like give people in-game credits, whatever it may be, then I might get Game Pass. But nonetheless, at the current point, it's just straightforward. I'm not having it. I didn't get Game Pass. I ain't going to. There's still some pre-recorded stuff that I can put for Forza, but I mean, as of now, my morals are more than my want to play the game right now. I mean, in general, I was enjoying playing the game. It's not as bad as Gran Turismo. That's for sure. There's cars and tracks in the game. Those enjoying that just aren't in Gran Turismo. For the first few months of any AAA racing game, I can generally find a good bit of fun from them just because of the other games not having the cars and tracks that the one particular game that I'm playing at the moment does. I can usually get a few months of fun out of that. But I mean, I can already tell after doing some Rivals events after doing the miscellaneous, I've done about 90% of it, but other miscellaneous single player stuff, other than racing online, I don't have tons actually left to do with motorsport in general. I've still been having fun, but I mean, I'm running out of things to do to have fun with. And as of now, even racing online ain't the dandiest. Like I said, even if there wasn't the fear of missing out, which is the main concern, I'd still be on the fence of even getting the game Pass this month anyway, because from all accounts, it seems like the online is not up to par. Some people have had better experiences than others, but I think it's a general consensus that we can all agree it's not as good as it should be. I don't feel like risking playing online, even if there weren't the fear of missing out. Whenever there's something along the lines of a driver and sportsmanship rating, I've said this for 6 or so years now, I don't feel like being penalized for someone else's mistake, and if I can avoid doing that, I'm going to avoid doing that. So yeah, whether it's someone else's mistake as in a driver in the race, with like the penalty system and stuff, which Forza's penalty system is better than Gran Turismo, but it's still far from ideal. Or it's by the company itself having shady things, or shady servers, whatever it may be. In this case, for Forza, it's both. I'm going to try and avoid that. Even if there weren't the fear of missing out, Forza's not in the best of state. It could be a lot better. I haven't even done a review overall because the game is just incomplete in a lot of ways. Online isn't as playable as it should be. The modes will never be there fully, so we'll never have a complete amount of modes to actually play in at any given point. And just what people have been saying from the beginning, it's obviously not built from the ground up. There's tons of glitches, graphical errors, all that sort of stuff as well. Lying is a major strike. Fear of missing out, which is a monetary thing too. Again, indirectly they make money from that, is a major strike. And then the online working subpar. Again, different people get different experiences, but overall worse than it should be working. It's 3 strikes right there, and the game's not been out all that long at all. At least with Forza Horizon 5, the fanfare just died out throughout time. The game, everyone loved it at launch. It was pretty easy to make money at launch. There were some miscellaneous story missions, and the story was cringy in general. But miscellaneous story missions with glitz and stuff, kind of what's going on with Motorsport as well. But in general, the fanfare for Forza Horizon 5 was incredible at launch. And the game was excellent at launch. Not perfect, but I reviewed it early on. It was about a 9 out of 10. Forza Motorsport's borderline dead on arrival. On all aspects, whether it's PC, Game Pass, people directly buying it on Xbox, on Steam, whatever it may be, the numbers are down across the board. The sales initially, people playing it on Game Pass initially, people consistently coming back to playing it, it's all gone downhill. In about every way that you could possibly word it, Forza Motorsport is underwhelming. To me, in about every way that you could possibly word it, it's still better than Gran Turismo 7, except for the graphics. GT7's graphics blow it away. But graphics are not really a make or break thing for me. I've discussed that before too. But, yeah. Forza Motorsport is underwhelming. While better than Gran Turismo, it's still extremely underwhelming in about every aspect there could be. Name something in the comments, however you want to do it, and I can probably find a way to find negatives about it more than what was initially expected at launch. Granted, the same can pretty much be said of Gran Turismo 7 as well, but I mean, the game's been out for this long. We obviously know this, and some people have come to accept it and blah blah blah, but never accept the amount of lying that's never going on. Never accept the amount of money shadiness, because it's in different ways with the games going on. Never accept stuff like that. In general, never accept stuff like that. Specifics like don't accept the penalty system in Gran Turismo. It's still terrible, especially when you compare any iteration to Forza. Forza is far from perfect, but all iterations of the GT penalty system are still worse than the current iteration of Forza's. And specifically, don't accept Forza's online not working up to par. It's worked better in the past 7 years ago on an inferior console. It should work better now. But in general, never accept this much lying. Never accept this much desperate for money. It's one thing if you're enjoying playing the game. It's another thing, morality, to accept things like that. I'm not saying to not enjoy things, but I mean, when it's this bad, don't accept it and move on. Don't just be part of the crowd. Always strive for improvement. Even really good games. I mean, even Forza Horizon 5 early on, and you can look at the review, I said things that they could have done better, even though that was the best racing game I've played in a long time. Things can always get better. In this case, things have to get better. If nothing is done about it, then I'm just not gonna play it. I have the points to where I can play it when, hopefully when, maybe if, I don't know. Things are gonna be done. I mean, I can't really say straightforward how much faith I have in Turn 10. I don't really know enough about the company's history and all that. I mean, y'all can take that as you may. I'm sure a lot of people watching this video have more history of Forza Motorsport than I do. That's fair enough. But hopes, expectations, I don't know as much of this company. But in general, stuff has to be done for me specifically to even play it. And I think everyone can agree with the general consensus that they've lied too much. They've tried to get money out of people way too much. And I think that one of the specific things of Forza too is online. Just not so good. Yeah, overall, I see no reason to give a full review of a game like this because the game is just simply incomplete. There was a lot of development hell, whether that's admitted or not. There was a lot of it. And the game is just simply incomplete. It's better than Gran Turismo, but it's still underwhelming in pretty much any way that you can put it. And that ain't worth the better than GT7 is not a compliment, to say the least.